It was one of those nights where the air outside felt heavier than usual, like it was pressing down on me, begging me not to leave the safety of the streetlights. But I didn't care. I had him with me. His hand was wrapped around mine, warm but strangely still, like holding onto stone that remembered the shape of my skin. We laughed as we walked back to my apartment, the sound of our shoes echoing against the empty sidewalk. He didn't laugh like most people. It was low, almost vibrating through my bones, but I told myself it was just part of his charm. When we finally stepped inside, I kicked off my shoes and let out a sigh. Smiling in voice, "Feels good to be home," I said softly, and he just nodded, his dark eyes fixed on me in a way that was tender, but also too intent. Like he was memorizing every movement I made. I didn't notice right away how still he was. No fidgeting, no shifting his weight, not even the rise and fall of his chest the way people usually breathe. He just stood there by the door, watching me, silent, as if waiting for something. Light chuckle, nervous. "Are you gonna stand there all night, or are you coming in?" He blinked slow, deliberate, and then finally moved. No sound followed his steps, though the floorboards creaked beneath mine. We made tea. Or rather, I did. He leaned against the counter, still watching. I could feel his stare prickling against my back as I filled the kettle, lit the burner, waited for the whistle. Every so often, I glance at him, but his face never changed. That same slight smile, that same unblinking focus. When the steam rose from my cup, I lifted it to my lips, savoring the warmth. He leaned closer, close enough that his breath should have brushed against my cheek. But there was nothing, no warmth, no exhale. Instead, he just inhaled deeply. His eyes half closed, like he was drinking the steam itself. Quiet, unsettled tone. "You don't want any?" I asked. His smile widened, the corners of his mouth pulling back just a little too far. Low, layered voice, imitation. "It smells alive." A shiver danced down my spine. I forced a laugh, setting my cup down. Faking cheer. "Well, it's just chamomile. Nothing alive about it." He tilted his head as though the words amused him, but he didn't answer. Later, when we curled up on the couch, his arms wrapped around me, I tried to let myself relax. The TV flickered in front of us, filling the silence with canned laughter. I could feel the weight of his chest against my back. But something was wrong. The longer I lay there, the more certain I became. His chest wasn't moving. No rhythm, no breath, no heartbeat. I pressed my palm lightly against him, pretending it was just affection, but deep inside, I was searching, listening. There was nothing. Voice trembling slightly. "You're so warm," I whispered, trying to cover my unease. He laughed then, low and strange, and for a moment I swear I heard two voices overlapping, one deep, one higher, like something else laughing with him inside his body. My stomach tightened. I wanted to move. I wanted to make an excuse, get up, shake this feeling. But when I shifted slightly, his arms tightened around me, not painfully, not yet, but enough to make me freeze. Whispering now, Don't fall asleep yet," he murmured against my ear. "I like when you're awake." I forced another laugh, but it cracked in my throat. Okay, minutes dragged on. My eyes darted toward the mirror hanging on the wall across from us. Just a glance, but something was wrong. My reflection was there, clear as day. His was there too at first. But when he tilted his head to look at me, the reflection didn't follow. His body moved, but in the mirror. His head stayed forward, staring blankly ahead. And then, for the briefest second, his smile lingered there, stretched wide, even though in reality he wasn't smiling anymore. My chest tightened and I blinked, rubbing my eyes. When I looked back, everything seemed normal again. I swallowed hard. Maybe I was tired. Maybe it was my imagination. But the longer the night went on, the more I noticed things I couldn't ignore. The way he'd appear suddenly behind me when I turned away, without footsteps. The way shadows clung to him longer than they should when he walked past the lamp. The way his voice sometimes crackled, like a radio catching static, before smoothing back to normal. I told myself not to overthink it. He was my boyfriend. He cared about me. This was just me being paranoid. But deep down, something in me already knew. The silence in the room stretched thin, so fragile I felt like even breathing might shatter it. I shifted beneath the blanket, trying to calm the frantic rhythm in my chest. He hadn't moved for what felt like hours. His arm was still draped around me, heavy and cold, like iron pressing me down. I told myself to close my eyes, to sleep, to pretend none of this was real. But the more I tried to rest, the more awake I became. My nerves lit up like they were on fire. Then I heard it. A sound, low, rumbling, not from outside, not from the building, from him. At first it was so soft I thought I was imagining it. Then it grew clearer, like a voice bleeding through static, coming not from his mouth, but from inside his chest. Dozens of voices, hundreds, a chorus of whispers tangled in a language I didn't understand. I held my breath, straining to listen, and my blood turned cold. The words were not human. They were sharp, guttural, layered in ways a throat could never produce. But even though I didn't recognize them, I felt what they meant. Hunger, possession, a terrible longing to claim something that wasn't his. My eyes flew open, panic clawing at my ribs. I turned to him, desperate to see if his lips were moving, but they weren't. His mouth was closed, still, calm, but his eyes were open. Two pale, silver orbs glowed faintly in the dark, staring directly at me. I jerked back, choking on my breath. "You're awake," I managed to whisper, my voice shaking. He only smiled. I wanted to scream, to leap from the bed and run, but the weight of his stare pinned me in place. His hand moved slowly, brushing a strand of hair away from my face. His skin was like ice, but the touch was almost tender. "Don't be afraid," he said softly. The voice was his, but not just his, something else wove beneath it. Deeper, sharper, like two instruments playing the same melody, but out of tune. "You were chosen, chosen." The words stuck in my skull like a hook. I shook my head, whispering, "Chosen for what?" His smile deepened, but he didn't answer. Instead, his body shifted closer. He didn't crawl the way people do. His arms bent wrong, his shoulders jolting, his joints popping as though his body had forgotten how to be human. Terror shot through me. I scrambled back until my spine slammed against the headboard, every muscle screaming to run, but my body refused to move. "What are you?" The words tore out of me before I could stop them. For a moment, his face flickered like a video struggling to hold signal. 1 second human, the next stretched and broken. His jaw hung too wide, his skin rippled like liquid barely holding together. And behind the human mask, I saw rows of teeth that didn't belong. The sound came again, the static chorus of voices, all whispering at once. It poured out of him, filling the room until I thought my head would split. The lamp beside the bed flickered violently, buzzing like it was about to explode. Then it did. A sharp pop, glass scattering, and we were plunged into darkness. Silence followed, heavy, crushing. I couldn't see him. I couldn't hear him, but I felt him. The mattress dipped under his weight. He was moving closer. The cold touch of his hand slid against my ankle. I kicked wildly, pulling away, tears spilling hot down my cheeks. "Please, please don't." His voice cut through the dark, calm and almost soothing. "Why would I stop? You wanted me here. You let me in." The words wrapped around me like chains. He was right. I had opened my door. I had welcomed him inside. I had laughed with him, held his hand, kissed his lips. And now I didn't know if any of that had ever been real. My body shook as I pressed myself tighter against the headboard. I reached blindly for the switch, the lamp, anything to bring light back into the room. When it flickered weakly to life for a second, I wished it hadn't. He was inches from my face. And he wasn't hiding anymore. The skin on his face rippled, shifting like waves underwater. His eyes stretched wider, the whites consumed by black. His smile split too far, stretching up toward his ears. Teeth gleamed in rows, sharp and endless. I couldn't breathe. My throat locked tight. He leaned closer, pressing his forehead against mine. His skin was ice, freezing me where I sat. His voice spilled out, layered, distorted. I've been waiting so long to show you. The walls around us began to hum, vibrating with a frequency that rattled the air itself. Pictures fell from the walls. The bed shook beneath me. My bones ached with the sound, as if the noise wasn't just in the room, but inside me, tearing through my veins. My vision blurred. My ears rang. The world itself seemed to fold inward. And still, he smiled. The hum in the walls finally faded, leaving only the sound of my own ragged breathing. For a long moment, the room was silent, too silent. The kind of silence that felt alive, pressing against my ears, watching me. I tried to convince myself it wasn't real. Maybe I was dreaming. Maybe exhaustion had pulled me into some feverish nightmare. And if I could just move, if I could just force myself to wake up, everything would vanish. But the cold weight of his body beside me was real. The faint indentation of the mattress where he crouched was real. And when I dared to lift my eyes, his shadow still lingered against the wall, stretched, warped, wrong. I clutched the blanket to my chest, knuckles white, whispering to myself, "It isn't real. It isn't real." He chuckled softly, as though I had told a joke. "Why do you lie to yourself?" The sound of his voice cut straight through me. It wasn't cruel. That would have been easier. It was gentle, tender even, the way someone might speak to a lover. But underneath, there was something else. Something ancient, something hungry. I forced myself to speak, though my voice trembled with every word. "If this is a joke, stop, please. You're scaring me." His eyes glimmered in the faint glow of the shattered lamp. "Scaring you?" He repeated, as though testing the word. "No, this is truth. And truth is always harder to look at than lies." I shook my head violently, my breath catching. "You're not making sense. You're not you." The smile stretched again, too wide, splitting his face into something that mocked the shape of a human expression. Not me, but I've always been me. I've always been here. My stomach twisted painfully. Always, the word echoed inside me. Memories rushed in our first date. The first time I saw him waiting for me at the cafe. The way his hand had felt when he reached across the table. Warm, familiar, safe. But had it ever been real? The silence of the apartment deepened. Every sound seemed gone, the faint hum of the refrigerator, the creak of pipes, even the distant cars outside. As though the world beyond these four walls had been erased. I whispered into the emptiness, "What are you?" For the first time, his smile faltered. His head tilted at an unnatural angle, too sharp, his neck bending like a broken branch. He studied me with an intensity that burned. Then he leaned closer, and his words slid into me like blades. "I am what you wanted. I am what you let inside." My throat constricted. Tears burned my eyes. I wanted to scream, to run, to fight. But my body felt heavy, pinned, as though the very air had thickened around me. He reached for my hand. Slowly, deliberately, his touch was ice. My skin recoiled, every nerve sparking with revulsion, but his grip tightened, holding me still. The whispers began again, low at first, then growing. Not outside, not even from him, from inside my own skull. Layered voices, twisting together, pressing against my thoughts until I couldn't tell where mine ended and theirs began. They spoke in that same alien tongue, a sound of static and metal grinding. But this time I felt words bleeding through the noise. Chosen, vessel, home. My chest heaved. Get out of my head, I sobbed, pressing my palms to my temples. His smile returned, softer now, almost pitying. I never went in. You opened the door yourself. The air shifted. The shadows along the walls lengthened, bending like living things. The mirror across the room quivered, the glass rippling as though it were water. And its surface, I saw us. Me small, shaking, desperate, and him behind me. But it wasn't him, not really. His reflection had no human mask, no attempt to hide. It was taller, stretched, its limbs too long, its head tilted with an insect's precision. Its mouth gaped wide, rows upon rows of jagged teeth gleaming in the glass. My body seized. I looked back at him, hoping the reflection was wrong. But his smile was calm, his form still human. Only the eyes betrayed him silver, glowing faintly in the dark. I pressed my back harder against the headboard, whispering through chattering teeth, I don't want this. I don't want you. He leaned close enough that I could see the fine pores of his skin, or what pretended to be skin. You say that now, but you invited me. You needed me. His breath wasn't warm. It wasn't even cold. It was nothing. The absence of breath, the absence of life. I squeezed my eyes shut. If I couldn't see him, maybe he would vanish. Maybe the nightmare would unravel. But in the darkness behind my eyelids, the whispers surged louder. The static roared. Images forced themselves into my mind, an endless sky of black stars, oceans made of liquid metal, figures moving in shadows, tall and bent, their limbs twitching in impossible angles. I gasped and opened my eyes again, but the images lingered, etched into the edges of my vision. He was closer now. Too close. His face hovered inches from mine. The mask of humanity was slipping, skin rippling, smile stretching too far, eyes shining with unnatural light. You're ready, he whispered, his voice layered with countless others. Let me show you. The walls began to hum again, louder. The vibration shook the bed, the floor, the air itself. My bones rattled under my skin. My vision fractured, the room breaking apart like shattered glass. The ceiling warped, bending down toward me, while the floor fell away into darkness. I clawed at the sheets, desperate to hold on to something real. No, stop, please, but he only smiled. And the world around me dissolved. The room dissolved around me, walls bent inward like paper folding. The ceiling sagged, trembling as though something vast pressed down on it from above. The floor beneath my bed stretched and rippled, dark waves rolling outward like water. I gripped the sheets so tightly my nails tore at the fabric. My vision blurred and sharpened, until I no longer knew if my eyes were open or closed. Through it all, he sat there, silent, watching. His form flickered between the man I knew and something I couldn't understand. A shape stretched too tall for the space, its outline bending wrong, as though the human world could not contain it. I clung to the memory of his face, the way he had looked in the cafe, the first time he smiled at me, the warmth of his hand when he held mine. But even those memories twisted now, warped by doubt. Was it ever real? Had it always been this? The whispers returned, louder this time, not just in my head, but everywhere. They poured from the walls, the floor, the air, overlapping, countless voices in a language that scraped against my mind like shards of glass. I screamed, but no sound came. My mouth opened, my throat strained, but the noise was swallowed before it left me. He tilted his head, watching me struggle, his silver eyes glowing brighter. Do you hear them? He asked softly. They've been calling to you for so long. I shook my head violently, tears streaking hot down my face. I don't want this. I don't want you. I don't. The words collapsed into sobs. His smile widened and his skin rippled, peeling away in subtle waves like a mask melting off. You've already chosen. You chose the moment you let me touch you, the moment you said my name. I stumbled from the bed, legs weak, crashing against the dresser. The mirror above it trembled, the glass shivering like liquid. My reflection stared back at me, but it wasn't mine. Not anymore. My eyes gleamed silver, faint but growing, and my lips curled into a smile I wasn't making. No, I whispered, clutching my face. No, that's not me. The reflection tilted its head in perfect mimicry of him. Rows of teeth split the smile wide open. The hum grew louder, rattling every bone in my body. I staggered toward the door, but the room seemed to stretch, the handle pulling farther away with every desperate step. My breath hitched, panic clawing at my chest. When I finally reached it, I grabbed the knob and twisted. It wouldn't budge. The metal burned my skin, ice cold, biting deep until I screamed and tore my hand away. Behind me, the bed groaned. I turned slowly, my heart pounding so hard I thought my ribs would break. He was rising, not standing rising. His body lifted from the mattress as those strings pulled him upward, limbs dangling, head lolling at an unnatural angle. His smile never wavered. The shadows gathered around him, thick and heavy, pulling close like living smoke. His skin flickered, human 1 second, something else the next. Too many eyes, too many teeth, limbs stretching and contracting as though he hadn't decided which shape to wear. I backed into the corner, hands trembling, voice breaking. Please, please stop. I don't want to see. He drifted closer, his feet not touching the floor. The hum in the walls rose into a shriek, rattling the glass in the windows until it cracked. You asked what I am, he whispered, his voice no longer layered but endless, as though countless throats spoke in perfect unison. Look, and never forget. The shadows peeled back, and for the first time, I saw him. His form stretched to fill the room, blotting out the walls, the ceiling, the light. His mouth split impossibly wide, unhinging until it was a chasm of endless teeth. His eyes burned silver white, too many of them circling his face, his chest, his hands. His limbs bent and snapped like insect legs, joints folding backward as he crawled forward, closer. The static voices swelled until they were a roar, until they were inside me, until I could no longer tell if I was standing in my room or floating in a void of stars and teeth and hunger. He reached for me, his hand stretching, fingers unraveling like threads of shadow and light. And just as his touch brushed my skin, everything went black.